Hello everyone.
Hi everybody.
We did say we'd do another part video to the elders control videos that we've done over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and also just to share with you a real life experience of where control takes over with, and we love these brothers, but they're under so much pressure to comply with the edicts of the society and the legalisms of the society that they are willing to go beyond the call of the measure, shall we say, in order to actually punish us, as they would put it, to put us in our place.
This is the what they call the unspoken thing within Jehovah's Witnesses organisation that has become almost like how can I put it? An action that they've taken upon themselves, and the society will say, well, we've never actually ever said that, but that's not the point, because they've implied certain things over the years. The witnesses take it upon themselves to take that information and use it and abuse it to their own way, that they feel they're going that extra mile for Jehovah, and to look good in the books and the way, you know, and in the eyes of the organisation, the governing body.
Sure.
So this is just our example. It was one particular example we had. We talked about the one where when we were disfellowshipped.
Yes, can we just
when
say
we first got married?
We are now disfellowshipped, and so you'd think that would be the end of it.
Not at the moment. We resigned.
No, we resigned.
Back then, just confuse everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
But we had been disfellowshipped at the time
for being married.
For getting married, because it was such a crime to fall in love and just anyway.
How dare you?
So we've been disfellowshipped.
Yeah.
So we're now outside of the congregation.
And we have done another video as to where Mark was. He's now living here in Cheltenham with myself, and we're now married. We've got our children living in the same house, and it's wonderful, which left then Mark's old property in the other town empty. Yeah. But obviously he still had a mortgage on that property, and we were paying the mortgage every month while we were trying to sell it. And financially it was crippling us, it really was. But couple of friends of mine from my previous town rang me and said, we need to move. Has Mark's house, is it still vacant? Is it still empty? We said yes, and she said, could we rent it off you? And Mark and I sat down, we discussed it, and we thought, well, straight away it's going to help them out, and it's going to help us out because we're still paying the mortgage.
It's a win-win.
So we took the house off the market for selling. And we basically paid half the mortgage, and they paid half the mortgage by renting it. Yeah. So effectively we were still out of pocket every month, but it didn't matter because we were helping the couple out.
And also it was only by half we were out of pocket.
And it was only by half, which it was literally the full amount.
A lot more manageable.
Up to that. Yeah, a lot more manageable.
But it was our business, it was our arrangement, and you've got to remember that although we were disfellowshipped, we were there for the disfellowshipping announcement, and we were there for every meeting afterwards.
But not only that, the couple that wanted to rent it off us actually came to our wedding, because they also understood the circumstances leading up, because they knew my previous marriage and what happened, because they were friends of mine when I was married previously. So they knew all about the history, and they knew that we were free to marry. So,
and we were making every effort to be at every meeting.
Exactly. So as far as they were concerned, but that side of it, spiritual side, was a very different one to the secular.
We didn't discuss anything spiritual with them.
No, and we didn't even have that much contact with them. It was literally just communicating about rent, blah blah blah. And we set up a bank direct debit system, so we didn't even talk to them properly on a day-to-day basis or even a weekly basis. And then the next thing we know is they're ringing us up and saying that they've had a visit from a local elder.
This is 25 miles away from us in Cheltenham.
Yeah. From a local elder, obviously in their new congregation.
That we've never met before.
Telling them that they're not to have any contact with us, and that they suggest that they move from the house that they're renting off of us. Well, when they're telling us this, we're thinking, well, we don't even know this couple, and how have they got that information? Because that's got nothing to do with them.
The elders from that particular county, 25 miles away, wouldn't have had any idea. No. We had no contact with them. I certainly had no contact when I was living there.
Mark wasn't going to that congregation or Kingdom Hall when he was living in that town anyway.
And all of a sudden you've got these group of men turning up on the house that I owned to talk to Jehovah's Witnesses that were living there under rent from us, to cause mischief.
Yeah. So then we found out that actually it was the congregation that we eventually ended up being part of, which was where my uncle was the presiding overseer, and obviously, and my auntie, the overseer's wife, presiding overseer's wife, get my teeth in, and where all my family were. That actually it was a couple in that congregation who I had grown up with, who had known me from being a single young sister, growing up pioneering and everything else, and suddenly that couple and my auntie and uncle were discussing it. They then decided to take it upon themselves, this couple, to approach this other couple in this other congregation, because they happened to be very good friends with them, and tell them the whole situation, to which they then got involved and then approached this witness couple that were renting the property. Now, if that's not interfering in things that they should have nothing to do with, then what is?
So let's just recap on this. We've been disfellowship. We're no longer apart. We're no longer Jehovah's Witnesses. We're getting on with our lives, even though we're going to the meetings. And they decide to not only involve themselves, but they had a plan behind it. And the plan was this: to get this family out of the rented accommodation and basically spoil the arrangement. In other words, make things very, very difficult for us on a private financial basis.
Having nothing to do with them whatsoever.
Nothing to do with scripture.
Nothing. It was none of their business.
Nothing at all.
And this wasn't even in the same congregation that we were actually in at the time. This was in another one in the same town.
And this is one group of elders talking to another group of elders to make sure that they got the job done.
Yeah, through
Make
gossiping.
it as hard as you possibly can for this couple.
Mixing the pot, stirring the pot. All elders' wives getting their big wooden spoons and sticking them in and giving it a good old stir.
What damage?
And good old gossip.
What damage can we cause this couple now? And boy, they had a really good go.
But thankfully, the couple that were renting the property off of us at the time didn't pay any attention to it, because they also said it's got nothing to do with them. So they continued living there until they decided they wanted to move back nearer to their family, which was another 30 odd miles in the other direction.
Just
which
so
was fine.
Sorry to interrupt there, love. Just to finish on this particular incident, I also want to just mention the fact that when I found out which elder it was that was ringing through and making contact with these other elders to go round and put the boot in, I actually rang him in my disfellowship state and left him a message on his phone, because he wouldn't answer it, to ask him why on earth was he involving himself in this matter. I hadn't even spoken to this elder for years, and here he was actively pursuing me, trying to make my life and my wife's life a financial misery. Fascinating. He never got back to me.
He never got back to me. And in fact, when we eventually moved into that congregation, he wouldn't even look us in the face.
No.
And this was when we were reinstated as well. So, but we knew what this couple had done, and it took everything that we had within us to overcome that and just move forward and put it behind us. But it's such a shame that they couldn't even come up to us as an older couple too. They were an older couple. And actually say, we're sorry about the interference, we did get your message. Nothing. It was kind of as if it didn't even exist.
No apology, nothing.
Move on. Anyway, that was that one. And then there was another circumstance where Mark and myself, where we run our own little business, and we happened to know, we did some work in my old previous town, believe it or not, which is about 40 miles in the other direction. And we did some work for a particular flat through a connection here in Cheltenham with a sister who happened to work for this particular big company. And when we went to do this job, we said, do you have people to do the internal works on a regular basis? And she said, yes, once a week. And I looked at Mark and I said, they're not doing it once a week. No way are they having anything like that done once a week. No way. No way. So I said, I don't think you're having it done weekly. I think that you're being blinded, and they're making out they are, but actually because you're so far away, you can't check up on it. So I said, can I suggest that you come and have a look and get somebody else to do it for you? Anyway, she eventually came back to me and said, would you be interested in it? And when I looked at Mark, it's quite a distance to go, but because it involved 8 blocks, we decided, well, actually, it would be worth going once a week, not a problem.
Big job.
Big job, do the work and come away. And it also came with the added extra of like once every 6 months, a bigger job on top of that. So it was worth it. So we had the job for about a year. And then they changed companies, management companies, and they got their own people in, which was fine because it was quite a trek to go. But anyway, we looked after it, got it up to a certain standard, and everybody noticed the standard we were keeping it at because we're good at what we do. And I will admit that, because we take pride in our work. Anyway, the next thing we know is it's now moved out to another company who we recommended that they take on the contract. And they said, we want you back involved. This company said, we want you back involved with it. When they put this to where this sister now works, because we've now resigned in the meantime, suddenly, even though our prices are actually competitive, and if not slightly cheaper, we were refused the work.
No, actually, we halved the price.
We halved the price.
We halved the price of what we were doing it a year before.
Because we realised that once we had it up to a certain standard, it'd be easier.
Easy to keep it going.
Because at the time they were still building other properties around, and it was harder to keep on top of it.
So although we reduced the price by 50% and
came in slightly cheaper.
This particular property management firm were very happy with the price. They said, "You've definitely got it. It's a rubber stamping. We'll put it through to the to this main office," and it reached this thin part of the conduit of information going through to this one particular sister. And you know who you are, sister, if you're ever watching this.
Yeah.
And we knew that once it got that far,
we said
it doesn't matter if we were doing it for nothing.
No. And we didn't get it, and we knew the reasons why. But the funny thing is, this company we do work for don't know the reasons why.
And they were flabbergasted.
We will actually be pointing out now.
They were really surprised
why we didn't get it, because we know full well why we didn't. But what's interesting is, although we don't get recommended for work, which is another point we'll come on to in a moment, it doesn't stop us from recommending other people.
No.
And it just so happened this sister who was in the middle of all this, her husband runs a window cleaning firm.
Surprise, surprise.
And we actually introduced him and all of his contact details to this management firm, who now use him across all of their properties, including all the properties that we look after, because his card's up. Yeah. So we actually introduced him, and he's now got a lot of work because of that. But that's not the point. The point was that it would never work the other way around. And the reason we know that is because my cousin told us that he wanted to keep a line of communication open by saying that he only recommends us. He wants to recommend us for work because he knows how much pride we take in our job. Yeah. And my very own uncle turned round and said, no, you can't even recommend them for work. No. My very own uncle.
Yeah. Now, there are a number of tradesmen in that particular community that we could end up doing a lot of work, as we have done in the past, and they know how good we are. But because we're no longer witnesses, he's actually gone out of his way to make it clear, difficult. Do not recommend them for anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so there's another two examples of control. Now, you put all three of them together, and this is extremely damaging, or has the potential to be extremely damaging to individuals that have just left the religion, have nothing to do with the religion, and yet here they are, three different examples where elders are actively pursuing a course of action that will could financially ruin a family.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to get at here. This is going beyond anything that they've got in their shepherd books.
Yeah.
This is going well beyond that.
Somehow I think they think they're going to get a little extra badge of honour. You know, I've gone that extra mile. But it's just such a shame, because you just think, oh, they're such lovely people, those witnesses. Well, actually, when you walk away from their organisation, they will make life absolutely impossible for you when it comes to the working environment. While you are a witness, you tend to get your recommendations within that close-knit, handy, little bits of, oh yeah, so-and-so and so-and-so, and I recommend that person and that person, regardless of whether they're any good or not. But because they're witnesses, they're more likely to get the work, i.e. accountants, window cleaners, people like electricians and plumbers and blah, blah, blah. And because of that, they have a connection of networking people that they will only use other brothers and sisters, regardless of whether they're good. We had a brother do our bathroom. There's so many things that have gone wrong with our bathroom, but it was a brother. So you kind of give him the work. But I look at that bathroom and think that could have been so much better. But it's not a problem, because you just move on. But at the same time, if I'd have gone out to somebody else and said, can you come and do this job, you know, it probably would have been a much better tradesperson.
Sure.
But there you go. But anyway, that's just, so when you're a witness, you tend to interconnect and connect with all these witnesses, and so will get the job because they're a witness. The moment you walk away, they will absolutely go out of their way to avoid you and not recommend you, and in fact recommend other people instead of
you. And this is part and parcel of what they would psychologically view, and they won't ever admit this. It's all part of the punishment for leaving the religion. We want to make life as hard as you can, but you know, when you think about the deeper, sort of deeper levels to this, this is a group of so-called Christians. They claim to be Christian, who are actively pursuing a family that are minding their own business, just going out to work, who would gladly cut off the supply of any financial income if they had the power to do so. Fortunately for us, we've got a variable set of contacts and customers across the board.
But we don't rely on them.
And it doesn't affect us at all.
In fact, because we've built up a reputation over the years, and actually the majority of our work is non-witness related, which is fantastic. But I feel sorry for everyone out there that hasn't got that luxury, because we know that if you've got all of your work being supplied by Jehovah's Witnesses, and you decide one day that you want to walk away, you've got the potential then to be losing your work. And we know how that can work, because it's happening.
And they will gladly cut you off. And it makes me realise that when it comes to having a conscience, their trained conscience that they're supposed to have as Christians is just not there. It is cold. It is callous.
It's only trained towards the JWs. It's
very
callous. Picky, very it's specialised towards.
Very damaging to other people, especially when you disagree with them.
Absolutely.
So we just wanted to share that, because that is what we're talking about with another element of control. Within the elder groups. And that's real, and it was real to us.
And because it affected us, as in we've had that experience, we know exactly, when it comes to control, how far they will go, and make it as difficult as possible for you. So we know that, we've experienced it, and this is all we can do, is tell you from our own experiences. If
you're having a Bible study with these people, think twice about getting yourself baptised. Just think about that.
I wouldn't if I were you. Anyway, we're going to say goodbye
for listening.
And we'll probably be back with another one soon.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye for now.